Welcome to Redtastic. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take money from my son to spend on my stepdaughter's medical care? I, 40 male, have a son, 15 male, with my late wife Cassie. Cassie died when our son was 5. She was left a large sum of money before her death because her death would have been preventable, but her medical team was negligent. She used the money to clear any medical debts, pay for her funeral, and the rest went into a savings account for our son. I have saved since, but not as significantly as the money is already there from Cassie. I remarried when my son was 11. My current wife Andy has a daughter who is now 11 female. Before we ever got married, we had discussed finances, the kids, and how our blended family would work. We spoke about savings for our kids. My stepdaughter has hardly any because her father cleared it out during his and Andy's marriage and refused to contribute to it again. So she started a new one. Andy was aware my son had a lot of money in his, but she does not have access to his, and I do not have access to my stepdaughters. We felt it was better to keep saving individually for our biological kid, and we agreed not to interfere. But everything else is together, so paying medical stuff, household stuff, extracurricular stuff, etc. Everything with that was fine until September. The brief description is my stepdaughter was born with some medical problems. These problems require daily meds and surgery on occasion. In September, my stepdaughter had a surgery that went badly and created more problems. Andy found my stepdaughter a new doctor. This new doctor discovered a further complication which required a new and costly medication in the short term, and a big surgery to correct. The surgery costs a lot, but we would pay it off eventually. This is when Andy suggested asking my son if we could pay the cost directly from his savings. I told her no. She told me if I explained that it needs to happen and he will still have plenty, it won't be an issue. I told her it would be, and that money is for my son, not for us, not for anyone but him. Andy went and asked my son anyway, and without letting me know. He told her no, and she raged at me, which is how I found out. I told her she crossed the line. She told me it's easy for me to say when my son isn't the one living with medical conditions. I told her that did not give her the right to ask my son, who is still a child, for money. Things got so heated that my son and I moved out because Andy and I did nothing but fight. And she then went on to say some crazy things, like my son hates her daughter and wants her to die. Andy's parents have interjected now and called me out for refusing to alleviate the stress of medical bills for Andy and my stepdaughter by taking money I did have access to. Andy said I showed how little I care for my stepdaughter. I told her we were still going to pay for it, so I don't know what she's talking about. But she and her parents called me an ass. I'm still furious she went to my son and asked for money after I said no. Am I the a-hole though? You're not an a-hole, OP. I understand that Andy is going through a really hard time with her daughter's health and the bills piling up. But her going to ask your son, who is a child, for money is a very manipulative thing to do. Because if he had said yes, then she would have taken advantage of that after you said no. It's sad that this is happening. It's also sad that Andy can't see that you mean it when you say you'll help with the bills without taking from your son's money. I hope she comes around soon and apologizes, but don't go back without a good apology, OP. Because from the way things are now, it sounds like she resents you and your son. Until it shows that her mentality has changed, don't go back. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. This is your son's money. She has no right to use it. And yes, she crossed a line. A big one. And even more for saying your son doesn't care about his stepsister. This money is from his late mother. Andy should go after her daughter's biological dad and call him selfish for not paying. Maybe even take him to court for this, as he should pay child support, and so would give Andy an ultimatum. Either she apologized to you and your son for crossing the line, or you are done. Not only does she not recognize that what she did is wrong, going behind your back to ask a minor child for money she should not have, but she also sicked her whole family on you. If I were being called names for doing the right thing, protecting my son's inheritance from his mother, I would be highly offended. If she doesn't watch her tone, she's going to wind up paying for her daughter's surgery and meds all by herself, because you are going to peace out permanently. Not the a-hole. Andy and her parents are all a-holes, especially if they are not pursuing your stepdaughter's father, who has significant responsibilities to his child and to her mother that you have all been ignoring. Even if he is dead, his estate has responsibilities to the child. It is outrageous that Andy and the family have created this situation for your blameless son. You should totally put your foot down about evading their responsibility to pursue your stepdaughter's father and make sure your son's inheritance from his mother is protected from their greed. You should also be having second thoughts about your marriage too. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for asking my sister-in-law to leave my son's birthday party and possibly ruining it by doing so? I, 27 female, have a 5-year-old son with my ex. I'm still on good terms with him, and he's a good dad to our son. He also has a stutter, and he's very insecure about it. It was my son's birthday party 3 days ago, and the first time my husband's family was meeting my ex. So I've told them about my ex's stutter and asked them to please not make any remarks. Everybody got the message and was very patient with him, except my sister-in-law, I guess. Because during their first conversation together, my ex had a bit of difficulty to finish a sentence, and my sister-in-law started huffing in annoyance. I just gave her a "stop it" look. During another conversation, my ex had, once again, trouble with finishing a sentence. And my sister-in-law said, maybe we need to come back tomorrow, and by then, his sentence will be finished. Which made other people laugh, but not my ex. So I took my sister-in-law aside and told her to quit, and if she had so much issues with talking to my ex, she should go talk with other people instead. She promised she would stop, and we left it at that. But during yet another conversation, when my ex's stutter showed again, she said, "So are you gonna finish that one, or should we just move to something else?" At this point, I had enough and finally asked her to leave. I told her that if she couldn't be respectful of my ex's stutter, then her place wasn't here. She protested and said I couldn't kick her out of her nephew's birthday party, but I answered that I could. My husband arrived and also told her to leave to avoid any further drama. She agreed and left. Once everybody left, my husband started yelling that my behavior was embarrassing, that I ruined my son's party for childish drama, and that his parents were now mad at both of us for kicking my sister-in-law out. And apparently they said they wouldn't allow me in their house again if I didn't apologize to her. OP, your husband, his parents, and definitely your sister-in-law are a-holes. They are insensitive and very cruel. Your sister-in-law was mean, and she was bullying your ex-husband for no reason. He had a stutter, something he has no control of, and she embarrassed him in front of everyone on his son's birthday. That's a horrible behavior, and I can't believe your husband and his parents are tolerating it. You did the right thing, OP. Ex-husband or not, he's a human and he should be respected. I'm glad you stood up for him. You don't owe anyone an apology. Stand your ground. You did the right thing. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. It is not a childish drama. It's ableism and straight up bullying. I have a speech impairment and difficulties with phrasing what I think, and people really often do similar things when I'm talking. The one thing I noticed, it's always people who are already trying to undermine me or make me seem less than them. And I believe that your sister-in-law already wanted to make your ex feel unwelcome at his own son's event. What the F? Your sister-in-law is the a-hole, a huge one. Not the a-hole. I stutter, and I sometimes have to strain my voice to say a word depending on what that word is. Thank you for standing up for your ex against your a-hole sister-in-law. A good rule of thumb for people when talking to people that stutter is to not interrupt them. Interrupting them is just gonna cause frustration because we have to stop and rethink everything that we're gonna say. Please don't ever stop standing up for your ex. Obviously not the a-hole. One person being a bully and an a-hole doesn't surprise me, but I can't deal with other adults laughing at her, making jokes at your ex's expense. My husband has a stutter. He manages it very well most of the time. But if he's under stress or uncomfortable, it's harder. I would go straight for the jugular of anyone who had the audacity to make fun of him, or anyone with a stutter in front of me. Like, seriously, what the F? Standing up for your ex or anyone who is being bullied against your husband and your in-laws is absolutely the right thing to do. People are unbelievable. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for giving up on working from home because my wife kept interrupting my meetings? I work in the medical field. I often discuss confidential information with clients and doctors. I'm not a doctor myself. In July of this year, I finally had an opportunity for employment that would give me the option of working from home. I sat down with my wife and explained that this was a good thing for us. I would be home 3 more days every week. I would still be going into the office on Tuesday and Thursday, but the other days I could skip out on the commute. I could help with my daughter in the morning and throughout the day. I could help with supper. I could see my 4-year-old daughter more. Not all the time, of course. I was still going to be working, but our car would be home 3 extra days. My wife could take our car and drop off our daughter with our parents or a sitter if she needed. We sat and talked to my daughter and explained that even though I was home, I could not spend all my time with her. I explained that if the door was closed, she needed to knock quietly and ask permission to come in, and to accept it if the answer was no. My daughter understood. My wife did not. She was constantly coming into the office when I was in meetings. I had to excuse myself to get her out of the room. More than once, I saw my daughter trying to keep her out of my room. One time, my wife was trying to carry my daughter into the room, and my kid was holding onto the door jambs, so she didn't get in trouble for coming in when the door was closed. I finally put a lock on the door. She said she didn't like being locked out of a room in her house. I explained that the door being closed is a sign saying that I was in a meeting didn't stop her. She finally got the point until this Thanksgiving. I was working on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and she needed to go buy something for our meal the next day, and for some reason could not take our daughter with her or drop her off with either set of grandparents or a drop-in daycare where we have a spot. Instead, she decided to shake my locked door and knock until I answered. I muted my meeting, opened the door, and told her to leave me alone until the end of the day. She left and texted that my daughter was watching TV in the other room. I talked to my boss and I went back to work at my workplace starting last week. I hate being away from my daughter and my wife. My wife hates being limited to using Uber on the days I'm not home or depending on our parents. Now she's mad at me for going back to the office. I told her that it's her fault for not understanding that I was working from home, not just playing games in my home office. I feel like an a-hole and she says I am, but I'm the sole breadwinner for our family. If I got laid off because of her, we would be in financial hardship. Edit. Why are people messaging me about a spray bottle? She's not a cat. Thanks for the information about the other post. That fit removed. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to buy a second car. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. You explained it so clearly that a 4-year-old daughter could understand. When there is a very real chance of legal repercussions from a privacy breach due to your wife's negligent behavior, she leaves you no choice. You have to protect the income for your family. So I don't see how working at home is still a viable option. And it really sucks because it deprives you and your daughter of extra time together. Not the a-hole. My husband does this. Anytime I work from home, he turns into a needy toddler. He will knock on our bedroom door every 15 minutes. Are you in your office? How about now? Are you still in your office? Why is the cat allowed in your office and I'm not? Meanwhile, if you just left me alone, I would be done already. Your expectations of her were reasonable. If she wouldn't do it to you when you were in the office at work, she shouldn't be doing it to you at your home office. Not the a-hole. Your wife doesn't get a free pass to you when you're working. If she can't understand the potential legal ramifications that may arise from her barging in on you, and that you're protecting your job, then going back to the office is the only way. It sounds like the wife is thinking about her husband's being home the same way some people think a stay-at-home mother spends her time all day, that is doing nothing. The wife cannot respect or trust his wishes to be left alone. This is a red flag.